welcome to our program, Coach-to-Coach. Today's guest is Olga Campora. Olga is a transformation and wellness coach and the founder of LYTA, Launch Your Third Act. With a PhD in education and over 3 decades of experience in yoga therapy and personal transformation, she helps high-achieving individuals move beyond fatigue, anxiety, and emotional overwhelm into a life of clarity, purpose, and deep fulfillment. Known for her powerful work in identity and reinvention, Olga guides leaders, parents, and creators to turn midlife into a meaningful new chapter, one rooted in emotional freedom, stronger relationships, and a legacy that truly matters. Thanks for joining us today, Olga. It's my pleasure to welcome you to Coach-to-Coach.
It's awesome to be with you, Greg. Thank you for
Great.
inviting me.
So the way I like to start these is to ask, what first sparked your interest in coaching?
Yes, so as probably those of you who will be watching this, you can pick up me immediately on my accent. So I come originally from what was called Czechoslovakia and today known as Czechia or the Czech Republic. And when I was growing up, I had experienced, many instances at school being bullied, and especially by teachers. And I know that it came to one point, and I don't recall exactly when it was, when I was in elementary school, when I simply declared to myself that I will raise myself. Meaning that I just have realized that I could not really rely on anyone, but it's just the work that, I'm going to do on myself that is going to help me to create a life that I desired. And I was fascinated as a kid with biographies, autobiographies, because usually there were the books about people who really have created something extraordinary in the world, that they have moved the needle, forward, for humanity. And so I feel like those books were kind of like my first coaches and mentors. And then so I kind of could tell that already just, when I was very little, there was just that sense of, I desired to really work on who am I going to become through this life. And then when I came to university, I have met what I would call today, in today's language, my first coach. His name was Otto. He was in his 60s, and he was a yogi, but he was absolutely exceptional in the way he was able to talk to people and just ask really incredible questions. And so he became my first mentor, and he literally changed my life when I was 19 years old. The level of faith and the level of confidence that he had in me was remarkable. I have never seen it in anyone else, and I had really fantastic parents, but the way he would be talking possibility into me was something that I had never experienced before. And I was really blessed to be with this man for about 15 years of my life while I was living still in Czechoslovakia. And what was really interesting was that we were organizing this summer wellness, mind and body immersions, when we were basically just, with people and helping people to up-level their lives. So I could see myself already then when I was, 19, 20, 21, that I would be actually coaching, even though I didn't know that that was something that would be called that way. And it was remarkable because I was actually surprised myself being at that point 2021, and there would be people who would be twice as of my age who would be coming to me and really wanted to sit with me and really just kind of needed help. And so I think that I would not even call it what was the first, what sparked, the interest in my coaching. I think that the question for me was first, like, when was it when I really realized that, I'm the one who just kind of, is responsible for my personal development. And that really started just kind of all the way in the elementary school. And then, of course, just, moving forward, I came to United States, and it was during the pandemic when I already had really very successful business that was not coaching business. It was a different type of a business, but I literally had to change my business within a week from being in person, and local business
Mm,
into basically online business. And as I was doing that, I came across a podcast, and as I was listening, to the podcast, it was a coach. It was a life coach. I was just realizing, wow, this is something I really have been doing all my life. And I immediately just kind of, when I listened to one or two episodes, I realized, wow, this is my call. It was almost like a puzzle that I was never ever looking for,
mm,
but I just found it. And so, of course, then I got certified as a coach, and I started practicing it. And here we are in 2020, six. I've developed very successful six-figure business. Really, just kind of, love working with people who just have a high level of commitment to themselves to really up level,
mm.
their lives. So here I am.
Awesome. Your story of your yogi that saw, I guess, a diamond in the rough reminded me
Hmm.
of there's a Stephen Covey quote, which is basically a definition of leadership, which is leadership is communicating to people so clearly their worth and potential that they come to see it in themselves. And
Yeah,
I got a real hit off what you said in terms of that. That's exactly what he did for you.
that's
Um,
yeah. It was really remarkable. As I have mentioned previously, it was really the biographies and autobiographies
mm,
that really were like my first mentors and
mm,
first coaches. So it was not a real person. It
yeah,
was a person I was reading about. And then I would never imagine. So we are talking, I was probably at that point, I was 12, 14.
mm,
And here I was just kind of, 10, 15 years, after, and I had published my own
mm,
biography, and I would never ever guess that because, also just kind of that book has, opened up doors for me to just, share, my
yeah,
story, share my pathway, which I never ever thought that would be so impactful for other people. And it was written about 10 years ago and still it's so relevant for people. And
mm,
they really love to read about this unique transformation of a girl who is coming from communist background, right?
yeah,
And just creating a life on her own. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's interesting because one of the things I've, uh, I guess, realized through my coach training, because of the pandemic and Zoom and everything, it's really made the world a much smaller place. Like I can be on calls any given moment with people in six different continents in the world, like all over the place, from Australia to Croatia to, the west coast of the US and Canada. And the more I meet people from all over the world and are in these coaching kind of arenas, the more it's apparent that we all have our own unique kind of stories and circumstances, but the human experience that we're all sharing is pretty universal. And
absolutely.
and I think that's why things like people's biographies and stuff really resonate with us because we can see ourselves in their stories, and it's a can be a huge benefit for us to me too. I think that's one of the things we were just talking before this call about Ankush Jain's book, Awaken the Coach Within, which is his basically biography of his coaching journey, at least
Yeah.
this section of it. But one of the things in the book he encourages coaches to do is to share their own story. Um,
That
and
book, I have that too because I'm
yeah,
part of actually his AJC, coaching career school. This book is just kind of remarkable. I just was actually, asked by Ankush to read it while it was still in the process. So if
mm,
you look all the way at the beginning, one of the acknowledgements are just, he included me, in
yeah,
that, which was just kind of a great honor. And it's really like you are saying, what is really remarkable about that book is that Ankush just, is sharing really his journey and he's being so transparent and honest,
mm,
about it. Speaking really about the things just, that a lot of people would not even speak about
yeah,
when we are beginners, right? And that's what I think what is so unique about, awakening the coach within and also I kind of, see how especially coaches who are young, meaning young in the profession, how they can really just, find themselves in it and find also, a pathway and clarity, just kind of how to move powerfully, in their businesses.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
remarkable book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great.
And if I know he's working on his third one because his first one, and I use this one with so many coaching, is the sweet sharing.
Mm, yeah.
It's just such a remarkable book that you can pick it up in any spot, and I love it because it can be just kind of a whole theme for a coaching session,
Mm,
because it's just very easy. There's always some very simple story from his life, but it's just kind of beautifully implements the 3P principles and just the way how mind works, and it's just kind of beautiful resource as well. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm really curious to hear a lot more about your practice and how you work and who you're working with. I did look on your website a little bit and some wonderful videos and things of retreats and all kinds of things. So I'm really anxious to hear about all that.
Yes, I think that's just what I would say. Just, I work in kind of like three tiers in my business, okay? And so I would say the bulk of my business is really working on a one-on-one,
Mm,
okay? And then what I love to do is these women's immersions. And I host them 2 or 3 times per year, and they're in different places in US or international wide. And I invite not more than 12 women, in that space. And we create something that is absolutely, absolutely remarkable. And I love being just, in the space like that in person with people. And I think that as we are also entering just, the time and space where we are, as I was looking at some researches that actually people will be even more and more hungry to really just kind of be in these small spaces, be in, small groups, and really experience in person, what it feels like to, be with, other human being, and, being just kind of, in a place when they can experience, the inner transformation, whatever it might be. With some people it would be purely about health. With other people it will be just, more around mindset and goal setting, etc. But this is just, I really love this work, and it really comes all the way back, where I started in my 20s, in Czechoslovakia, just hosting just kind of already this, wellness, body and mind immersions earlier on. And I think that I just feel like that's, the easiest way for me just, to be able to really feel people
mm,
and to be able to just, see what the need is there. So women's immersions, and then I do a lots of public speaking, and I think that, just having my own book, it's just such a beautiful pathway because people always reach out and they want to hear about the story of my life. And so I do a lot of that. And so, that allows me also to then, do and create workshops around just kind of, a certain topics and just serve people, that way. So it's one-on-one women's immersion and public speaking with workshops.
yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned body and mind, which I love you know, um, a lot of coaching is around like, the 3 principles, mind, consciousness, and thought, but it's, you know, not so much about the physical body. So this whole combination of the physical and the mental, it sounds like you've caught on to the importance of us as a whole being. I wonder if you could talk to that for a second.
Yes, absolutely. Because, every single person and client is very different. There is, a client who just purely can go directly into, stepping into their mind. You
Mm,
know, you have then a lot of people who really have their nervous system is just, a function and their body functioning on such a high stress level
mm,
that I really need first to just kind of help them to calm down, to settle, to be grounded. So that's, and it just immediately you can sit with a person for 5 minutes and you just know that there might be a need for a somatic work. And what I mean by that, it can be as simple as just grounding meditation together or breath or
Mm,
we will do and use some yoga postures, okay, or if I see that it's someone who would benefit going forward to do more just of that work with the body to help them first just kind of to get grounded and get in touch with themselves, then we do that. So it's just it really depends of the client and of their needs, and just really tuning into them, because the most important thing in that space of a coaching container, at least for me, is that that person can finally exhale,
mm,
that that just kind of we can actually get into the core of the matter, what's happening, right? That it's not jittery and overwhelmed
yeah.
everywhere, but just kind of we can ground and just kind of find the place where we can start together. So I love doing that,
Mm,
and with some people I even say, do you know what, I think before we do any other work, going forward, on your mind, just
mm,
purely just kind of doing coaching in that area, I just said, let's just kind of spend a few really sessions, and sometimes it can be a month, just really helping you to get in touch, with yourself.
mm,
Because, you probably have some kind of a similar experience, when people sometimes, when you kind of, ask them, what do you feel or how do you feel? A lot of people are not actually tuned in their feelings whatsoever. The language around it is just so limited that they might say only, I feel bad or I feel good,
mm,
you know, but we know that there is just kind of like many different options in human language
yeah.
to really be able to distinguish what's going on, and helping people to create a language around what they are feeling. It's
Mm,
a beautiful just journey, because that then it's easier for me to tap into just kind of the mind,
yeah.
and start just kind of working on that level.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny how asking that question of how do people feel. Probably the most common answer I get is I don't know. And
Yeah.
and when you try to help them kind of lean into that, there's a lot of fear and insecurity and all kinds of things.
Indeed.
And when you did that big exhale, it was like, yeah, I see it a lot where,
Yeah. Yeah.
Jamie would probably call it speaking behind the mask, but it's like people are performing in the world
Yes. Yeah.
and getting below that and letting them having that connection with them so that they're comfortable enough to kind of drop their defenses and really just be who they are.
Yeah, I mean, people are just so, surprised. When I usually talk to people, none of us we want to experience uncomfortable feeling, and very common human things with, really not uncomfortable emotions are basically three things, right? Just, resist, that feeling, or react to it, or
Mhm.
or just avoid it, right? And when I tell them that's what we usually do, but when we do it, that feeling is just kind of, really prolonged. And it can be a chronic feeling that can become anxiety, that can become just depression, that can become, overwhelm, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And people are so surprised when I ask them, do you know how much it takes to process, a feeling? Because there is science around it that, in some cases you can just do it just in 11 seconds.
Mhm. Yeah.
And just kind of like think about it, of course, it's not with every single feeling, 11 seconds, but it's just like, can we sit with it? Can we invite it in, even if it's just, uncomfortable, but just acknowledge it, that it's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And people are always so surprised when they go through that process, to sit with it, and they realize, holy cow, it really just kind of, it really does not stay in one place, it just moves.
Yeah.
And so I think that's, such a huge revelation for a lot of clients, who work with me, just realizing I don't have to resist, I don't have to react, I don't have to avoid. I can actually just kind of, sit with it, let it pass, and then there is kind of like a sun coming, in a
Mhm.
sky,
Yeah.
right? And so, yeah, so that's the beauty of the work that we do as
Yeah.
coaches.
Absolutely. I'm wondering if you could share some specific examples of how coaching has helped some of your clients or even
Yeah,
yourself
yeah. Oh
personally.
my gosh, I'm so excited. Yeah, I'm so excited, Greg, that you have asked. So I just came back basically last week from Florida. where I was hosting, women's retreat, and this beautiful, really very successful, accomplished women. And always work in a circle. So all the work that we do, just we do in a circle. And so I just one of the examples that was like so phenomenal. Here's this beautiful lady. If you would see her, you would never ever guess that it's someone who has been going through about 38 years of therapy and who would have just kind of a narrative about herself that she's unworthy
Mm.
and she's even filthy, okay? Because there was some, abuse that took place when she was little.
Mm.
And here we are sitting, and as we go through the process where she is recognizing that it is really the narrative that she's creating, about that event, not making that event any lighter. It just did take place.
Mm.
But the narrative that she has created around it has kept her about 38 years, in a therapy. And you can imagine how much of money she has spent, And Greg, it was like in 30 minutes, in less than 30 minutes, not only she got it, but there was such a transformation and change, in her
Mm.
that, she realized as she released that story, as she forgave herself for just creating just that narrative and that judgment about herself, suddenly something completely new arised, and it was, I'm whole, I'm pure.
Mm.
And it can sound so simple, Greg, but just when I saw her eyes, because we are literally just kind of about like sitting together, and all the
Yeah.
women, others were just kind of watching us, and just her whole complexion completely change
Mm.
in just kind of a few seconds. And everybody who was there, they saw it. She
Mm.
turned, and it was just, and this woman, she is beautiful to start with, just
Mm.
beautiful woman, but just the complexion, the way what was released, just what suddenly just kind of the radiance that came out of her was just absolutely, absolutely remarkable.
Mm.
and and it was so much fun. Then just she told me, I went on the beach, and just just by myself all the way in the morning. There was nobody on the beach, and she was like, and I was just kind of like shouting into the ocean, I am whole, I am just kind of pure. And this is something that this is not small, because if you think about 38 years
Mm.
versus 30 minutes. So I call it, like 38 versus 30 distinction.
Mm.
And I know that my coach Ankush, when I was sharing the story with him, he just says, wait a minute, let's go and count how many minutes. It's
Mm.
38 years, and it's close to 20 million, you
Wow.
know? And so he just says, no, it's not distinction 38 to 30. This is a
Mm.
distinction, like 200 millions, just to, 20.
Yeah.
And when you realize that, you are like, holy cow, the work just, that we do, and the shift, that can really occur in people's minds and hearts is just remarkable. So I
Yeah.
always know it because I have had other instances like that, but I'm just kind of, in an awe of the
Mm.
work, because she could not believe it, because she was telling me the same thing. Olga, I spent like 38 years
Mm.
to work with it, to make peace with it, to move on. And here I am just at this women's immersion. I'm with you for, 25, 30 minutes. And that is just, absolutely a profound shift. And
Mm.
then I talked to a friend, of mine who was there, at the immersion just yesterday. And she just says, I was, with the lady, we had some other, just, community thing going on. And she just says, Olga, she radiates,
Mm.
and everybody's just like everybody's like, wow, you know, what just happened with so and so,
Yeah.
and so I think that just, I'm just so excited about this. I always say, that this is something, to me more like a calling,
Mm,
I can imagine just doing this, going forward for another 35 years
mm,
and really just being able to raise the consciousness of this planet by really helping people to really realize their God-given greatness,
mm,
how amazing we each of us are, and just being able to remove those lenses that are keeping us away to breathe freely, to expand and to really experience peace and love and joy is just, remarkable.
yeah, love your story. It's you know, the amount of hope that it gives me in terms of thinking about people in my sphere that struggle with things or have spent years and years carrying heavy loads, knowing that, there's examples like this lady you're talking about that in just 30 minutes, and really it's probably, you know, the image that was coming to my mind was this balloon getting blown up and blown up and blown up over 38 years. Then all it takes is one little pin prick and poof,
That's
it's gone.
beautiful. I
So
love it. I love it, Greg. That's a
yeah,
beautiful image.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 It's great. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations for her. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen this yourself, but any story like that, or it's not just the story; it's the fact that it actually happened. Like the ripples that will send out, like to the other women in your group, and then, like you said, her life, she's a different person after that
Yeah.
event than
And
before, and everyone she comes in contact with
yeah.
will
Yeah.
feel
And
it
it's
and
just
see
kind
it.
of, you think that you just work only with one person, right?
Mm,
But just kind of the ripple goes into really truly to three, four, and more generations going forward. Because of course, it just kind of, affects the relationship that she
mm,
has with her husband, with her kids, within her community. Because I really do believe that every single place that we show up with some sort of radiance of
mm,
something, and the higher frequency of love and peace and joy you can radiate around yourself, it does change the environment that you are around.
mm,
And and the other thing, just you realize the power of thought.
mm,
you know uh I really come just kind of from a background. I really do believe in God, and know just kind of like scriptures and any the ancient texts and
mm,
everything. And it's just so beautiful that you see a lot of people who kind of understand just kind of that level to love God and to love neighbors,
mm,
but they never ever just kind of understand the next part, that it's actually it is included in the New Testament, that love your neighbor as yourself.
mm,
But I think that people forget that it all starts just kind of, about ourselves, the relationship that we have with ourselves. Because how can I love somebody big if I don't love myself? I can
mm,
only offer, from myself what I'm capable of, right?
mm,
And so I just, love this work, and just realizing also how the power of the mind, because everything starts from the creation of the language, how we speak, the language creates, right? And so I just knowing that you can create completely just kind of different way of creating just kind of yourself.
mm,
The circumstances might not change, but the way you just kind of can look at it can be such a just kind of incredible benefit and growth to you and everybody else. Or you are just somewhere and you just only complain
mm,
and be negative, right? And so the power of a thought is just something so beautiful, and can be translated in anybody. It doesn't matter what kind of background
mm,
they are. They don't have to be spiritual, they don't have to believe in anything, but it's just seeing how people can really shift. I mean, I just cannot even imagine living 38 years trying to resolve something like that.
mm,
And actually, the shift really first has taken the place that she got it.
mm,
She got it. There was not anything just kind of, about what happened that we wanted to make it just kind of, any lighter or anything like that. It was like, okay, and who do I want to be? Who am I choosing? Just kind of,
mm,
from what took place in my life, how do I want to create myself? And so it's just kind of, really beautiful, just the way she kind of recreate herself in just kind of, her stage where she is now in her life
Mm,
and just completely live from a new place.
yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah, I love that. It reminds me what one of my early favorite quotes from Stephen Covey was, um, uh, well, habit one of the seven habits is be proactive. You are the creator. And I used to think of it in a very narrow way of, okay, yeah, I'm creating my schedule and I'm creating my goals and I'm, all this stuff. And the way I see it now is like, no, quite literally, you are the creator of your own reality. Um,
yeah,
and and, uh, and then it reminds me of a silly Spider-Man quote, which is, "With great power comes great responsibility." um, but
yeah,
we have far more power than we realize to
yeah.
create with the life that we want to live.
I think it was C.S. Lewis or somebody like that. I was reading something that he said that if we truly were able to see ourselves, how powerful we are,
Mm,
we would just kneel down and worship ourselves,
mm,
and it just echoes what you are saying.
yeah,
It's just you're realizing that, that who we are being is just so magnificent.
mm,
And just, being able to remove those lenses of, what is standing in the way and realizing that it's just such a, incredible life creation because I honestly feel that just this whole life is, about becoming who you are becoming, right?
yeah,
And that just kind of, is something that just, like it's a mountain without the top, right?
mm,
And so, yeah, so I really feel, the work that just kind of is done, in coaching is just so beautiful. It's very different just kind of for any work that, clergies might do or just, other, people just kind of who work with the mind. This is really, just helping people to move so powerfully into the future and seeing just kind of, the possibility that is within them. And that's what I love, about the whole life coaching journey,
yeah,
that it's expansion. It's just kind of looking into the future, right? Okay, this is what's happening, and what would you like to create,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Taking in consideration what you are going through.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. If there was one thing you'd want people to take away from this conversation, or one thing you'd want people to know, what would that one thing be?
Wow. I just have read in this book. I think it's just kind of it was the book that's called The Way of Mastery. There was something that says, I am loved, I am loving, I am lovable forever. So if that would be one thing that
Mm,
just kind of I would like to people to know is just kind of that they are that you are loved, you are loving, and you are lovable. Because when we realize that, we can just kind of accomplish anything and overcome any obstacles and create just a beautiful life.
mm,
You are loved, you are loving, you are lovable forever.
mm. Beautiful. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed being with you, and I love your energy. I love what you said earlier about raising the consciousness of the planet. I think you said it might have been the words you used, but I certainly feel like my consciousness has been raised just from this one conversation. So thank you for that. And if people want to find out more about what you've got going on, learn about your practice and your retreats and one-to-one coaching, where's the best place for them to find all that information?
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, it's just kind of you can see my name, Olga Campora. So if you go www.olgacampora.com, that's the best place, to come into my space. And I would love, to have a conversation with anyone who is interested to learn more about not only the work I do, but if there was something that sparked, some interest, I'm happy just kind of to have a conversation with them.
Mm, nice. Do you mind holding up your book again, just so we can share the title? And is that on
Yes,
Amazon?
yes, it's on Amazon. It's called Saint Behind Enemy Lines. And if you just kind of look for the last name Campora, you will find it. It's available also on Audible,
Nice.
as well. And
Are you
yeah,
narrating in Audible yourself?
what is that?
Did you narrate it yourself in Audible?
No, I actually just, hired somebody just kind of, to
Yeah.
do it.
Nice.
Yes. But yeah, it's just, if anybody reads the book, I definitely want to just, hear from you.
Mm,
I know that that book just kind of, has changed a lot of people's lives, and I'm just so honored to be able to share the story that just shifted something in people that they even haven't thought about, because it was very unique growing up where I was growing up, and just having one obstacle, after another, and just the way I was just, pivoting and going through those. It's just very inspirational for people.
nice. Well, I just got my monthly credit on my Audible, so now I know what I'm going to use it for. So thank you.
I would love then Greg to get back in touch with me.
Yeah, I will. I'll let you know
I
what
would
I
love to
make
talk
of it.
to you.
I try to walk every day, and I love listening to books. So it's
Nice.
I was never my whole life I was never a reader, but the last few years since I've become a walker, I've listened to I don't know how many books, but um, yeah, it's kind of my a passion I never thought I would ever have, but it's become that. So
It's great. Congratulations. I love walking, too. It's just the best, exercise that can be there. It's just very, like I think in Japan they even call it just, something like a forest bathing,
mm,
because they like to walk just kind of, in the nature. And I never thought about it that way. So it's both, it's a great exercise. It's like you say, you can just kind of, listen, to something, right?
yeah,
And it's wonderful to be in the nature,
yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, kudos to you.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
yeah. Thank you, and thanks for
Yes.
joining me today. This has been a pleasure, and I will be in touch again soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much,
All
Greg.
right, thanks. Take care.